It's time to take a look at stories making the headlines in Nigerian newspapers. With me in the studio is in-house analyst Obani Akinwale. Good morning. Thank you for joining us. And Olori Janet Mbafolabi, publisher Scroll Magazine, joins me via Skype. Good morning and thank you for joining us.
Good morning, Veronica.
All right, let's head straight to the papers now, and I begin with the Daily Times. Anxiety as APC rejects defeat of godfatherism by Obaseki. And to the front page of the blueprint, Obaseki floors Iyamu. He says, my victory proves Buhari as defender of democracy. Governor-elect speaking there, Iyamu concedes defeat, says it's time to work harder. PDP triumph, end of godfatherism in Nigeria. Atiku, Okowa, Ekweremadu rather, others responding there. Buhari congratulates the Edo Governor, reiterates free, fair elections. Yaga Africa commends INEC, says poll credible. All right, we'll move now to the front page of the Business AM. Investors, analysts watch for surprises as CBN's MPC meets. To the front page of the Daily Trust, Edo Governorship election, how Obaseki defeated Iyamu. Buhari Lot's election advises Obaseki, godfatherism has ended. Atiku, APC campaign council rejects results. And to the front page of the Business Day, financial repression series. In Nigeria, weary investor savers subsidize inefficient government. Right on the front page of the Leadership newspaper, Shehu Idris Sarkinzaza joins his ancestors. May his soul continue to rest in peace. And on the front page of the National Economy, federal government's new energy initiative will accelerate economic growth. Oil marketers, economists, railways, seaports, investment necessary for development. Amechi. And finally, on the front page of the Nigeria News Direct, Edo election, Obaseki wins, APC Imo Governor rejects results. Buhari PDP governors congratulate Obaseki. Collective will of Edo people made victory possible. Obaseki residents hail security agents. INEC. All right, a majority of the papers this morning are talking about the Edo governorship elections that took place on Saturday, and the winner was declared yesterday, and that is what we will be looking at, especially the conduct of the elections that has been said to be one of the most peaceful elections. And I will begin with you, Olori Janet Mbafolabi. I wonder what you make of the conduct of the election in Edo State on Saturday. Before now, there has been palpable tension before the election took place on Saturday. And at the end of the day, it is being commended as one of the most peaceful elections Nigeria has had. What do you make of that?
Veronica, it was a weekend of anxiety based on fears, based on reports, and based on analysis that there were going to be violence in Edo election. There were reports that Edo election would be like war because of the bitter campaigns that had been going on between Obaseki and his rival, his former rival, and another rival. This is the second time both of them are contesting against each other. So there was this bitter campaign against him and Iyamu, and against him and the godfather, the former chairman of APC, Adam Soshomole. So there were pressure that there was going to be tension, there was going to be crisis, there was going to be violence, thuggery, ballot snatching, and perhaps killings. And because of that, some people deliberately stayed back not to go and vote on time to see what the weather of the election would be. So when they found out that everything was going on smoothly, many people came out. The election was keenly contested, there was no doubt about it. And every professional involved in the conduct of that election went about their businesses in a professional manner, including the media. The media covered it well. The security agents did not really have problems with either the media or the voters, except maybe in one isolated case where it was reported that an INEC official was shot in Esako Central, and another one was injured on the face. But apart from that, there were not violence the way that everyone expected it to be. The tension was high, and it was doused after the results were declared that the election had been over.
All right, let's bring the conversation back into the studio now. Like she said, perhaps a lot of persons were waiting to see what the atmosphere would turn out like, because there was palpable tension leading up to the elections. And some other persons have said perhaps because leading up to the election, we saw a peace accord was signed. We saw the U.S. saying that they were going to ban some persons from, coming to the U.S. because of their involvement in certain levels of violence in the Kogi elections, and that perhaps this could have served as a check to these activities leading up to these elections.
Let me start from the issue of U.S. And Europe sanction on whoever is involved in election. I think it's high time Africa needs to stand up and to stop all this rubbish coming from the post-developed world. I was wondering what were
that's a tough word.
It's not tough, it's a reality. I was wondering what was the sanction by European Union or DFID on Americans when the black were being shot every day in the American by the police. I was wondering what are the amnesty reports, whether there's any sanction for them. I was wondering what happened during the elections of the Clintons and the Trump of this world, and there's alleged interference by Russia. Where was any sanction? So Africa is not supposed to be sub to any part of the world. You could imagine France literally has millions of thousands of dollars of gold reserve without having any gold mine in their country. And yet you could see the status what we have in French colonized African countries. So I think it's high time Africa begin to call bluff of all these sanctions. Let us, we are not saying
the way Africa is, can they really call bluff?
They can.
Because these same people are the ones that gave these people some subsidiary in terms of money to address certain issues.
Let's look at a country like Libya. Libya during the era of Muammar Gaddafi is close to any part of the world. People, the per capita income is better. So what I'm saying in essence is that Africa is not supposed to be an appendage to any form of government. Enough of you saying you are going to sanction us when things are also applicable in your area. You could see the debate between Miliband and the Prime Minister of England a few days ago that you signed this contract and you don't have the clue of what you signed. Is anybody sanctioning him? I think that's on the side.
Did that have an impact on this election?
Exactly. It doesn't. That's the truth. This election has been won and lost prior to about 6-7 months ago. You recollect that about 14 governors of APC were not in support of Comrade Adam Mole from not giving the ticket to this man. And you look at the campaign trail of APC, it has been few governors. Do you see the progressive governor supporting the campaign? You will see there's about 3 or 4 governors from APC, maybe governor of Osun, governor of Imo, governor of Kogi, and governor of Kano.
And this translated to the peaceful conduct of the elections?
You could see that the APC governors were not supporting the candidacy of Uzodinma, which means literally they have lost their guard. That is 1. 2. You recollect vividly that the same APC governors were the one that went to President Muhammadu Buhari that we need to tame this problem in the APC by removing the Mr. Chairman in place of Comrade Mole, and he was removed. Who was made the caretaker committee chairman? Same APC governors who are the one that formed the cross. So
the issue here is the peaceful conduct of the election. So Did all of this translate
now to the peaceful conduct of the election? See, it is obvious to all the political stakeholders that since there is a resemblance of literally no support from the presidency, because you look at what played out in Kogi State. The Kogi State has federal support. Look at what played out in Bayelsa State. Bayelsa State has what they call federal support. But when you see what played out in Kogi State, Mr. President moved back completely and it allowed the electoral umpires to play there. All of us.
But the president, leading up to elections, talked about how he's interested in entrenching democracy, the principles of democracy.
Well, why didn't we entrench the same thing in Kogi State? Why didn't we entrench the same thing in Bayelsa State?
So does that mean he doesn't support?
Nonetheless, Kogi people won. And why I say Kogi people won? Because Kogi people are the ones that choose who becomes their leader in the next 4 years. But we should not forget that we also remember that either Obaseki or Uzodinma or whoever the governor is, these are guys that have always sweat tickets. So for me, it is good that for the first time in the history of Nigeria and in the time past, we had an election that seems to be credible, and whether the EU, the IAGA of this world, the journalists, the police, were able to perform their role as expected in any electoral process.
All right, we'll leave it there with you now. All right, let's come back to you, Janet. If you look at the number of registered voters, we had about 2.2 million, according to reports. But at the end of the day, only about 550,000 total votes were cast. What does this say? Because that has raised some sort of concerns for some persons.
Veronica, that had always been the issue. Even in the past elections, that's the presidential and the governorship that we had, you had registered voters like 1 million, and then on the day of election, you have just about 1 million votes. Some of the reasons responsible for this is that maybe they were not able to find their names on the day of election. Maybe their votes were part of the council vote. So many things are raised, and some may not have actually turned up for the election, either because of fear of violence or fear of being assaulted by anybody. And also, some of them may have actually registered in order to collect voters' card. And you know, voters' card serves for some people as a means of identification. So they just use that to have a means of identification, not necessarily because they want to go and vote. But however, like 1/4 turned up for this Edo election. But if you look at 2,550,000, it's like a quarter of those who registered came out. And so many reasons may have been responsible for this one, including fear, in fear of the alleged violence that we're going to come up.
All right, we'll leave the conversation here now, Janet, because of want of time. But the conversation will certainly continue. All right, let's head straight to the papers. And I begin with the Daily Times. Anxiety as APC rejects defeat of godfatherism by Obaseki. All right, to the front page of the blueprint, Obaseki floors Izeyamu. Says, my victory proves Buhari as defender of democracy. Izeyamu concedes defeat, says it's time to work harder. PDP triumph, end of godfatherism in Nigeria. Atiku, Okowa, Ekweremadu, others speak in reaction to the governorship election in Edo State. Buhari congratulates Edo Governor, reiterates free, fair elections. Yaga Africa commends INEC, says poll credible. All right, let's go now to the front page of the Business AM. Investors, analysts watch for surprises as CBN's MPC meets. But weak economy offers no room to maneuver policy rates, says experts. All right, on the front page of the Daily Trust now, at the governorship, how Obaseki defeated Izeyamu. Buhari Lord's election advises Obaseki. Godfatherism has ended. Atiku, APC Campaign Council rejects results. On the front page of the Business Day, financial repression series in Nigeria. Weary investors, savers subsidize inefficient government. And to the front page of the leadership newspaper, Shehu Idris Sarkin Dazau joins his ancestors. And to the front page of the national economy now, federal government's new energy initiative will accelerate economic growth. Oil marketers, economists, railways, seaport investments necessary for development, Amechi. And to the front page, the last paper we'll be reviewing this morning, that's the Nigerian News Direct. Edo election, Obaseki wins. APC Imo Governor rejects result. Buhari, PDP governors congratulate Obaseki. Collective will of Edo people made victory possible. Obaseki, residents hail security agents and INEC. And that is where I will be taking the conversation from this time around, talking about a lot of Nigerians commending INEC's effort with regards to the Edo governorship election. Some persons feel that there seem to be a huge improvement in INEC's effort to ensure a free, fair, credible, and transparency in the elections in Edo State. I will begin with you, Janet. I wonder if you see things that way as well.
I see it that way, Veronica. There was a huge improvement on the part of INEC compared to past elections. They have demonstrated that they are getting better by the day, and we hope that at the Ondo election in 3 weeks' time, they are also going to demonstrate the kind of performance that they did in Edo, because a lot of people were afraid that maybe INEC would say the election, would declare the election inconclusive and maybe ask for a rerun and all of that. But this time around in Edo, INEC was very professional. We didn't have the kind of cases that we had in the previous elections. And they have been getting commendations, even from the media, even from foreign and local observers, from governors. Obaseki himself commended them, and that's a good one for INEC this time.
I wonder what you make of INEC's efforts, Obani, and what would you expect they improve upon, seeing we have the Ondo governorship election coming next month?
I think I wouldn't want to give credence to INEC for their performance in Edo election, because prior to now, INEC has done everything possible as obtainable by law setting up INEC to conduct the election. But there are other critical actors that have not allowed INEC to be able to do what they are doing. And who are these actors? The voters. I want to give credence to Edo voters for shining their eyes and ensuring that their vote count and they've come out in mass to vote for their choice. I want to give credence to the Nigerian police force. Most times we bash police for doing this, for doing that. Even when some of them complain that they don't have their allowances, the Nigerian police force did a very good job. At the polling booth, there were no guns. They ensured that there was orderliness, and they ensured that there is no case of manipulating on the road or hijacking on the road. Police did a good job. Then again, to the credence to go to the Mr. President Muhammadu Buhari, who has said before now, and even a day before the election, that he wants to ensure that that election is peaceful and everybody involved in the election process should do what they need to do. You and I know that before now, INEC as electoral umpire have done their best. But we have these three critical stakeholders: the voters, the federal government, and also the police, for not being able to do what is being expected. But at this last election, it's clearly that Mr. President wants to entrench free and fair electoral system in Nigeria, not by mouth. He's so sure that the person of IGP and even the IG Oyebade should be given credence for the kind of people they deploy to do this election. Then the voters in Edo State for standing up to ensure that the process is credible, that there is nobody, they conduct themselves in a peaceful way in such a way that whoever even wants to, there was a chaos at one of the polling booths, and they had to move those people out to ensure the election runs smoothly. So for me, INEC has always doing what they're expected to do. The challenge has always been the
support from the critical stakeholders.
Exactly, and I give the critical stakeholders more credence and more credibility. Thumbs up to Nigerian police. Nigerian Army did a good job. NSCDC good job. Edo Light, Edo people stand by their vote. They voted and their vote counted. And the innovations from INEC has always been there. But it is now obvious to all of us that if INEC get this level of support from critical stakeholders in electoral process in Nigeria, we can get it right, and we hope that Ondo election will show that, yes, Nigeria was in charge of free, fair, credible electoral process.
Now, Janet, there is a concern. This is the first election that is being held in a pandemic in Nigeria, and the NSCDC gave out the protocol that must be adhered to. But if you look at what happened on Saturday, a majority of persons were not making use of their face masks, were not observing the social distancing rules, and there are concerns that perhaps there might be a new wave of infections and numbers increasing in Edo State.
Veronica, perhaps there might be a new wave, but at the point of voting, many of the voters were not bothered about whether there'll be a new wave or not. They just wanted to cast their vote. They wanted to do what they went there to do, and they were not really bothered about whether they could contact
but that's the concern of the government, because the government has said Nigerians must take responsibility.
Yes, Nigerians must take responsibility, but somebody should ensure that they took that responsibility. How many officials of the government were there to ensure that there was social distancing? How many were also there to ensure that they used their nose mask? So most people who went there were not passionate about their health at that time. If a new wave comes out, we pray that it doesn't come up following reports that the pandemic has really gone down. Some have even closed down the isolation centers. We sincerely hope that it will not reoccur and the voters will not contact the virus because they went to perform their civic duty. Rights. I sincerely hope that doesn't happen.
All right, Obani Akinwale, your final words on these issues before we move on, quickly.
Yeah, I think there's the general saying that the liberty to roll your fist stop at your neighbor's nose. The federal government is doing their best to ensure that they enlighten people, money is being spent, corporate organizations are spending money to ensure that people are being enlightened. The onus is on us as individuals to ensure that we protect our life. Buhari is not going to die, neither will Obaseki die. The facilities are there for them to keep themselves. Nigerians, COVID is real. Let us ensure that we protect ourselves against this disease so that together we can flush it out the way we flush Ebola out. Then again, credence to INEC because they provided sanitizers, they provided face masks for their employees, and the police do a very wonderful job. You could see police face masks. The media did their best, but it's important for us as stakeholders. Government is doing this because by the time they started arresting people, they will say, oh, this is not democracy, they have their freedom. But it's important for us to know that COVID is there and we need to protect it. And again, the stakeholders that have made this election successful, the presidency, the Nigerian police, the Nigerian army, the electorate themselves, and INEC should please support INEC to ensure that Nigeria's election can be placed upon any pedestal to compete with anybody across the globe.
All right, Obani Akinwale, Jonathan Falabi, thank you for your time on the newspaper review.